This podcast is for general information only. It is not intended as a substitute for general healthcare services. If you have medical conditions, you need to see your doctor. Use of this information is at the user's own risk. Welcome to FitRx with Dr. Greg Dennis. Join me as we challenge the standard sick model of healthcare. This is your source for everything health, wellness, prevention, fitness, biohacking, and more. Well, before we get started on the podcast, I wanted to talk to you briefly about the Whoop strap. As you know, I do not really advertise any on my podcast, but I talk about the Whoop strap because I like it. I love the data that it gives you. It gives you sleep data, the amount of REM sleep, deep sleep. It also gives you your heart rate variability and tells you kind of a readiness score for the day. And what's nice is you can, I like trying different things and new things and then being able to have something like that to measure to see if it improves it or the things that take away from it. Anyway, if you want to learn more about the Whoop strap, I have a whole podcast episode on it. It's just called Whoop, and that's back about a year or so ago. You can find that. Whoop strap would make awesome both Mother's Day and Father's Day gifts that are coming up. So if you're interested, you can get a discount through my FitRx. Just go to join.whoop, WHOOP.com/FitRx. Now on to the podcast. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of FitRx. I'm your host, Dr. Greg Dennis. I am interviewing an obesity doctor today, Dr. Emily VinZant, MD. And it's kind of cool that we went to the same residency program, and that's kind of how I ran across her. As I saw something on Facebook about what she does, realized that we trained in the same place. She was many years later than me, and then her dad was a surgeon who I trained with back in residency. So anyway, kind of cool. It's a small world. And she is a family practice doctor, as well as a certified obesity medicine physician and a certified life coach. And so she, at least for the time being, has gotten away from kind of traditional family practice and just doing obesity medicine and life coaching. So we can ask her about that transition and just kind of about what she does. And she also hosts her own podcast called The School of Weight Loss. And so we'll talk about that as well. So Emily, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, okay. Well, so talk to us about that transition, because as we were talking before we recorded, I mean, it's rare that you see family doctors leave traditional, medicine and pursue other things. And so you made the decision to just pursue obesity medicine and life coaching, and I'm sure there's a lot of overlap there. But just talk to us about what got you interested in obesity medicine, and then kind of the evolution there and why you decided to do what you're doing now.
Yeah. So for me, it really was kind of the story of my life. I mean, I struggled with my weight. I went into family medicine and always loved the weight loss aspect of it. So my very first clinic, I actually started in practice with my uncle, which is my dad's twin, out in Derby. And he had a weight loss clinic in his clinic. And I just kind of took it on from the beginning because it was such a passion for me. And I felt like for a very long time, the ladies that I treated, their story was my story. So I struggled with my weight. They did phentermine. I did phentermine. We all did whatever diet I was on at the time. I don't know how many you've tried. I've tried a lot. And so as I went through this process, I just kept going from thing to thing to thing and treating the same ladies over and over again in my practice. So eventually, to make a really long story short, I had a gastric sleeve procedure in 2016. In 2018, I had my daughter. I started to regain the weight. I felt like she was a budding sugar addict in front of my eyes. And as all, perfectionist mothers will do, I blamed myself entirely. So I just went on a mission at that point. I was doing full-time family medicine. I kind of started a blog on the side. My husband was like, why don't you make your blog about weight loss? And at the time, that's how my stuff was initially called Dr. Mom E, because it was a mommy blog. And I was like, well, I guess I could do that. And I decided I was going to find the single best diet for everybody out there and be the answer to this whole problem. So I went on a very big mission and I did obesity medicine certification, which is kind of a side note. You have to be certified in something else to be certified in obesity medicine, but it's a new growing area in the medical world. It kind of started along the bariatric range, but now they've supported it more with the medical range. So they were really talking to family physicians about being a support to weight loss. And so I went to all those big conferences, took the boards, and I just felt like I kind of got it then, but I felt like there was a huge missing element, which was sort of the ladies like me who were very successful with life, but just couldn't lose the weight. And I discovered life coaching. And the way that I found that was actually through a physician who hosts a group for physicians only for weight loss. And another friend of mine who was blogging told me about her. And I was like, well, I'm just going to do the certification because I need to understand this mindset. So that took me down this route of adding on to my traditional family practice, adding on obesity medicine. And the clinic that I was working at supported me in doing that. And then I was coaching at night to help with the mindset side of it. So the way I kind of looked at it as is in the obesity medicine world, there's 4 pillars to it. So diet, exercise, medications, and then lifestyle management. Coaching really hit the lifestyle management aspect of it. The other parts of it I could kind of get in my practice, but not really. There wasn't really time to develop it like I wanted to. And my days got to the point where it looked like, a full day of family medicine, trying to get in obesity medicine visits in the middle of that, and then coaching all night. So I just decided to go the route that I felt like I could get the biggest bang for my buck for my patients and my clients. And it was through a coaching element. So now I do virtual weight loss coaching programs. And it's transitioned from being in a very traditional, family medicine practice to being working from home, doing a lot of my work through Zoom and my podcast and all of those things.
Well, very cool. So how has that been for you? Obviously, it's very different than, traditional clinic setting. Talk about just your experience doing that. How long have you been doing that?
So I was trying to think of that. I started my first small group in 2020 of the coaching element of it. I transitioned full-time the beginning of 2022. So I've been doing it full-time as this is, what I do for about a year. And it's a transition for sure. There's parts that I love about it. I mean, I love not being in the time limitations of traditional family medicine. I love being able to make my program what I want it to be and not be limited by everybody else telling me what boxes I have to check. Instead, to just be limited by getting people the best results I can. And that's amazing. What I didn't anticipate was, learning how to run a business and being an entrepreneur and, learning all the tech behind it and all of those aspects that, I'm a little older than this really good tech generation. So it's still a bit of a struggle for me, but it's a learning curve.
Yeah, very cool. Well, I'm anxious to just kind of hear your approach. And so let's break down maybe those pillars that you mentioned.
Yeah.
You said diet, exercise, mindset, and medicine. And so I guess let's first talk about diet. What is your approach when you advise patients? I just came from a metabolic and health conference. We just got back actually a couple of days ago, and so it was cool to hear a lot of experts. Not everybody agreed, on things, but it was just kind of cool to hear from a lot of people. But anyway, tell me just kind of your approach as it pertains to diet and nutrition.
Yeah. So I would say initially I was on this mission that there was going to be a single best diet. And as I went through obesity medicine certification, they gave us a list of 5 pages of diet approaches. And I was like, oh, there's not going to be one best diet out there. So initially I worked in the diets, but I've actually kind of melded it down to a single trend. So most of the ladies that I help, so I run a coaching group for women. My ladies are in the overweight or obese category. Most of them have significant weight to lose. And so for my ladies, we hone in first on, we call it the energized eating plan. And it's incorporated in it is what, when, how much, and why you eat. So we work in all elements of that. I always push proteins first. I'm a protein first believer. And part of that is honestly my journey through weight loss surgery. You know, it was like what we need first is probably proteins and veggies, and then the others we can add on. So that's kind of the basis of our what in the energized eating plan. Probably as important as anything with them, though, is we base our decisions on why we're eating, which is like we have one single sentence: I eat to energize my body. I eat to energize my body, which sounds pretty easy. But so much of what my patients and clients struggle with is eating for all the other purposes. And that's what gets in the way of it. So we do the energized eating plan, focusing on protein first, veggies next. And then we practice stopping when we're naturally full. I do some fasting in my program. We use different forms to kind of fit their lifestyle. And it's a pretty individualized approach in the end.
What do you feel like is the biggest hurdle with people just telling them that? And obviously, you know, most people are used to eating the standard American diet. I have a lot of conversations about just trying to eat foods with one ingredient. And so I feel like if people, if nothing else, would just eat real foods and not the packaged processed stuff, I mean, that would treat a lot of things, not only weight loss, but a lot of other things. But that's our society. I mean, that's what people have in their pantries, and they go to social events, and I mean, and that's what they're eating. And so how do you get around that? And what do you feel like is the biggest hurdle for people to get them to do what you're advising them?
Yeah, it's for sure mindset. I actually would say that our biggest hurdle, because of the ladies that I work with, is they have this very like black and white approach to it, where they say, I'm either on this very strict rule following diet, or I'm completely back to eating the way I did before. And getting them past that mindset that like, you're going to figure out how to make this work for the rest of your life. So I love your example of, let's say you're going to go out to eat. You know, I always tell them you can go out to eat. You're just going to choose what you pick when you go out to eat. And I agree with you completely. Eating with like the whole foods, the foods that are just natural in origin, they're more satiating. They're going to keep you fuller longer. And they're available. They truly are. You just don't look for them. And so when we go these places, we get into all this drama. So we're like, am I going to be perfect, or am I just going to break my diet right now? And my goal is to help them meld in between, to realize that you can still eat in a way that energizes you and in a way that keeps you going forward on your plans, but it doesn't have to be perfect.
Do you kind of take one thing away at a time? So if somebody's, you know, eating very poorly, say they're drinking, you know, several Cokes a day, do you find it easier and maybe more successful to say, okay, this week just stop all the Cokes, next week maybe stop the bag of chips? Or do you say, look, go home, get a box, you know, dump it all, you know, get rid of all this stuff in your pantry and stock your pantry with more healthy food? I mean, what do you tell people there?
Yeah, so we actually do elimination trials, and I love that. So we start no sugar. We just eliminate sugar to begin with. And we go to 3 meals a day, no snacks. That's really, I always tell them, in your mind, you're going to know you're not starving because you're eating 3 meals today. We're like, I'm starving. I can't survive no sugar, right? And you'll get weight loss benefits from just eliminating sugar to begin with. And then we actually do trials of some of the foods that tend to trigger people. So we'll do like a trial of elimination of dairy. We'll do a trial of elimination of gluten and wheats. We do trials of eliminations of, I don't really eliminate fruits or any of the veggies or anything like that, but we do work within those to make it work for them. And I like them to, my second goal that I always tell them is to be very cognizant of how they feel when they do that. because then it becomes not just about the scale, but it becomes about their long-term health. Like if you were, diagnosed with celiac or diabetes, you might give those things up easily, but when you're told I'm just doing it to lose weight, it's harder to do it, right? So I always tell them, look, when we do these eliminations, about how you feel. Are you less bloated? Are you less achy? Are you less swollen? How do you feel in your body with these things? And let's build up the story of why this is the best thing for you to do, not just a short-term diet thing for you to do.
Okay. Very good. I'm glad you mentioned the protein. I mentioned I went to this conference, and I mean, that was probably the biggest agreement of almost everyone is kind of a protein centric, type diet, especially with women. I think women, for whatever reason, don't tend to get enough protein. I don't know why, women feel like they have to eat a salad, all the time. Maybe I don't know. But I feel like women struggle the most with getting the amount of protein that they need. But
protein first, I think, is like, even when you look at the big studies off of like weight loss surgery and those things, which is the most drastic, fast weight loss, the protein component is the most important component to keep you going forward. And that's just a unifying thing, and interestingly, I think sometimes we think, a lot of times people will talk about the Mediterranean style diet being the healthiest, or, is going low carb healthier. But the unifying factor with all of them is protein. It's just, it can be in different styles. You could be doing it in beans and fish and those sorts of things. You could be doing it in red meat. I don't really tell them from a calorie standpoint that they need to do one or the other. I just want them to focus on protein first, because otherwise, if you look at like even compared to a Mediterranean style, what we tend to do in America is we make it all about the carbs. We'll eat all the pasta with maybe a little bit of protein versus, in the traditional Mediterranean, they're eating the salmon and those things first and then a little pasta.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Well said. So the next one is exercise, obviously very important. What do you recommend when you're counseling your patients?
So I have an interesting approach to exercise because of the place where most of my ladies reach me. Most of them, not everyone, but most of my ladies are over 200 pounds, some a lot close to 300 pounds, and moving their body is just something they're not extremely capable of doing at that point. So we add it in later. We don't start with exercise. We start with a diet. And I tell them it's not until you've mastered the diet that I want you to add in exercise. Exercise is so good for your health. But for my ladies, it tends to be this long list because they've done so many diets that they're like, all right, now I'm starting diets. I've got to sleep 8 hours, hydrate enough, exercise an hour and a half, and fix my diet and try to lose some weight. So we start on the eating plan first. And then as they get to there, we add in exercise in a way that's like, I want you to start moving your body in a way that you like. Let's start there first. And then from there, you can keep growing from that space. But yeah, so we add in exercise, but not initially and not until they've mastered their eating plans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. One thing I'm preaching more than I used to, and this is probably, I've been doing this for, I guess, a few years now, a lot of weight loss stuff. I mean, that's not just what we do, but, I find these patients who are successful and they lose a lot of weight. But if they don't gain muscle, then I just don't feel like they're going to be as successful. And so I'm really hitting a lot of people hard this year about trying to gain muscle and optimizing muscle, which is kind of where the protein comes in. But whether we're talking about women or men, I feel like once you get some of that weight off, you've got to focus on muscle, and muscle is not only huge for longevity for a lot of different things, but 80% of our postprandial glucose is going to be metabolized by muscle. And so the more muscle you have, I feel like you're going to, it just makes everything else better and easier. And that's difficult, for especially women, it seems like, but I really just hit that hard and focus on them building muscle eventually, not right off the bat. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, especially as you see like the sarcopenia with aging and all of that. I mean, the muscle component is hugely important. I think that, as they go forward, it's a lifestyle thing as much, right? And we know that the studies definitely support that for weight loss maintenance, exercise has to be part of the picture. So adding in the muscle component to make sure that you're, keeping that aspect of your body strong and keeping yourself mobile is hugely important.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So once they start exercising, obviously you just get them moving first. Once they're able to do that, do you just let them do kind of what they enjoy doing? Do you have specific, areas that you try to gear them to as far as exercise is concerned?
Generally, they all do different things. We're pretty individualized in my approach. So I like them to find something that they like first and then move on from there. I love yoga. We do, like in our group, we do some 5Ks and things like that to get them out and get them moving together. For a while, I was interested in HIIT. I think, as you look at the ability to get in the exercise quickly with HIIT, I think that that's a nice component. A lot of my ladies tend to be like in that 50 or older range too. So they're not always so interested in that.
Yeah. Fair. And your next pillar, was it mindset?
Yes. Mindset and medications. Yeah.
Yeah. So mindset, which is probably the biggest one. I mean, they're all important, obviously. But that's where I'm sure your life coaching comes into play. Because man, it's hard, even people who have had success and then they start to slide the other way. And then they, before long, they're just back where they started. So man, what's the trick here? How do you stay in that focused mindset and maintain, this as a lifestyle?
Yes. I think that is I will say just to, I'm extremely proud of the fact that my group averages without medications, 21% weight loss with mindset. So we do well with it. I mean, usually the study arms look at like 4 or 5% mindset. It's a more complex discussion, but I have two big tools that I would break it down to with mindset. The first is, especially for my ladies, and depending who you're working with, I think this is really applicable to everybody, but we base the weight loss journey off of what I call the healthy you. We don't base it just off the scale. We base it off of who we're becoming. My ladies want to be active participants in their life again. They want to create, maybe they don't fix all their health problems, but they want to know that they're doing the right things to prevent diabetes and to prevent fatty liver and to prevent arthritis. And so they've tried so many times diets, and they get into this very diet mentality that when they start messing up or the scale doesn't move, they're like, I'm done. I don't know what else to do. The rules aren't working for me. Right. So shifting that mindset, we start with the creation of what I call the healthy you, which is, who do you want to be when you reach your goal weight? That usually is somebody who's active, who's exercising, who's eating healthy, who could maybe eat a sweet every now and then, but walk away and not be obsessed with it for the rest of the day and telling themselves they failed again. So we start with that picture, and that is like the mindset that we base it off of, not just the numbers on the scale, because then they start to see all the wins that they have around weight loss, so that when the scale does the things that it does, that you and I know it'll do, they can still be in the game, right? And then the second thing I would say is really our think, feel, eat cycles. That goes back. So in I did my life coach certification through the life coach school. And the Brooke Castillo teaches the self-coaching model. It's kind of a variation of that, but think, feel, eat, think, feel, act cycles have been around kind of in psychology for a long time. And basically, generally, two things happen. We have a lot of thought errors about food, and that's America, right? It just is. We tell ourselves food is entertainment. We tell ourselves food is, there's nothing better than a home cooked meal. It's food for the soul. Every event revolves around food. Everything in our lives revolves around food. And it's the more processed, the more, highly addictive type of food, the better. And so we start by kind of looking at the story around the food items, and then we look at the feelings that we want to create through food. So a lot of my ladies, and I think a lot of Americans are emotional eaters, but I deal with a lot of ladies who've struggled for a long time with emotional eating. So they don't know how to feel feelings without turning to food. They feel sad and they go to food. to try to pick themselves up. They want to celebrate. It's always food. And because now they can't be active and they've cut back so much of their life because of their weight, food just becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So we work in think, feel, eat cycles, and we look at the like thoughts that don't serve us, how to feel feelings without food to change our eating, not just change the eating by the rules, change the eating by who you want to become, and by learning how to feel feelings without food and change thought errors about food.
So to kind of summarize all that, it's complicated and individualized. People, I guess, just need the accountability. They need to probably discover the root cause of why they're overeating or whatever, which is probably why it benefits to work with, somebody either like yourself or, myself or something like that.
Yeah, because it is individualized. There's trends we see, right? But why you go to food at 9 p.m. might be different than why somebody else does, And so I think in that space, having somebody who knows how to help you in those moments is the key to changing those results.
Yeah. Very nice. Well, let's talk about medicine. I especially want your take on, kind of the newer trends of the semaglutide and all these that just seems to have taken the world by storm. Everybody wants to be on these medicines. And of course there's older medicines as well. I'm not a huge, I do some medicines, and with this semaglutide, I have prescribed some. I'm not a fan. I just feel like you have to have the foundation first. I prefer to use them when somebody's kind of stuck, maybe getting them through a plateau just to kind of keep them moving. I really hate just starting people at the beginning on these because they'll just rely on it. And, I feel like that it's unrealistic to think they're going to be on these medicines for the rest of their life. And I don't know why they would want to. So those are just some of my thoughts. But I mean, what are your thoughts with some of the newer obesity medicines and just medicines in general?
I feel like I could just probably literally say ditto.
Okay, good.
That is my thought. So, as these new medications were coming down the pike in the obesity medicine world, we've been talking about them forever, right? And knowing that they were coming, are these the new weight loss surgery alternative? Are these the answer to weight loss? And, I've actually melded my group a little bit. Like one section of my group did the medications, and I wanted to see how they were going to work, because I'd used them some in clinic, but I'd never used them in my coaching groups. And so in my coaching groups, we're big on eating to energize your body, learning how foods interact with your body. I did not want them to start with them because of that. I knew what it would do to the GI system. Some people get, the fullness, the nausea, the diarrhea, the constipation. You can get all that. I didn't want it to impact our diet eliminations to see. So we started at about 8 weeks in to the program. And what I found was almost exactly what you're saying, which is it was great in the aspect that, the new GLP-1s, they make you full longer, and that's helpful. But for me, with my ladies, it was kind of externally impacting how much they were going to eat. So even when they did stop them, because I didn't want them on them the length of the program, I wanted them to have some thoughts about it afterwards that I could coach them through. And what I found is that naturally they're hungrier when they stop them. So, the amount of weight loss that you got was already starting to come back a little bit that fast. But the second part that those medications work on is the reward centers of the brain. So what I've heard patients, kind of some of my older patients from before, and even some physician friends of mine who I know, they're like, oh, my relationship with food has changed. Yeah, because you're not getting the same reward sensation. They feel like they're eating like normal human beings. That sounds like a fabulous thing. It sounds like a dream. And it is if you want to be on those medications the rest of your life. And nobody does. Mm-hmm. So I've already seen some of the rebound coming back. I don't know if you've seen that, but I think that my I was actually initially very excited about them. And I do think that they have a place. Where I like them is for my ladies who are like in the 250 to 300 pound range, who probably have never really truly experienced fullness because they've struggled with their weight for so long that they don't even know what you and I would consider somewhat normal portion sizes. And they don't really experience fullness like we would. And so a lot of those ladies, I like it as a way to look at, this is what maybe a portion would look like if I experienced fullness that was physiologic and not coming from emotion and coming from feelings instead. But I do see rebound off of them. And, in terms of the older meds, I mean, I don't know about you, but I did phentermine for a long time for patients. I got just pretty frustrated with it over time. Because, people would disappear and then come back with the weight back on, and then we do it again, and then they disappear and come back. I think that, even I've spoken kind of our local rep was wanting to work with some of the doctors, because I think even truly in terms of like this semaglutide and those things, we know it's a short-term fix, and they even are looking at ways to like, how could we support this better so that it's not, I want to lose 10 pounds for an event and then I end up 20 pounds heavier afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Sounds good. Well, so you also host a podcast. The name of the podcast is the School of Weight Loss. So talk about that. When did you start that? And just kind of tell us a little bit about the podcast.
Yeah, so I started the podcast in 2022 when I transitioned out of my traditional practice. And it's generally just learning about weight loss. So I love all of the different tools. I'm really not extremely biased towards one or another. I just like to help people figure out what would work best for them. I've been through so much of this journey personally. So I like to, incorporate in a lot of the mindset into my podcast. We talked about things like weight loss surgery, weight loss meds, what I learned as a weight loss doctor, what I learned as a weight loss coach, all sorts of different things. This week, we talked about fasting. And so I like to do the research behind it, but I also like to share what I see in my ladies, what I've learned through my journey. And I just kind of like it as a space to talk too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 Very cool. Yeah, that's, I got into this space, I don't know, years ago, just kind of health, wellness, longevity. And I was reading about every book I could get my hand on. And so it's been kind of fun to do this, because now I just get to talk about what I love, whether it's weight loss or whatever. I mean, fasting.
You've had some interesting groups or guests on. I looked back, I was like, yeah, those kind of sound cool.
Yeah. I had a little variety, all within the kind of the wellness space. So yeah, no, it's been a blast. So, well, very nice. Well, as we wrap up here, I always ask my guest if they could give us one health tip that would make us healthier today. What would you say to that? Sorry to spring that on you.
One health tip that would make you healthier today.
Yep.
I mean, truly just choose to commit to being the healthiest version of you. And that might look different for everybody right where they're at right now, right? I always start my days, my goal for this year, my word for this year. I don't know if you participate in the words of the year. I used to think that was kind of ridiculous, but now I do it. And my word for the year is healthy. And so each day as I start the day, I'm just like, all right, how can I be the healthiest me? I'm not changing any of my circumstances today. I may have a crazy schedule. I may have a sick child. I may have, be frustrated with my boss. I may be upset with my husband. I'm not going to change any of that. How can I choose to be the healthiest me today? And I think so often we have all these rules that come up for us that are like, well, I need to do this and this and this and this. And I always challenge people, don't make it your to-do list. It's not a to-do list. It's literally a mindset of like, I am here on this planet today. Today, I can choose to be the healthiest version of me. And from that flows, wanting to make healthier food choices and maybe getting outside and walking in the weather and maybe being a little kinder to your spouse. But that like kind of grounding space to start your day is just such a beautiful way to live your life.
Very nice. Great advice.
Thank you.
Well, okay. So your website is Dr. Mom E. So that's MOME.com. Is that where people go to work with you and stuff? Is that website?
Yes. Yeah. It's got a funny name because it started as a blog, but it's Dr. Mommy, DoctorMome.com. And it's got information about me, some fun things. And then there's a work with me page as well.
Cool. Okay. And then the podcast, if people want to check that out again, is the School of Weight Loss with Dr. Emily VinZant. So
that's right.
All right. Well, good conversation, and appreciate your time, and appreciate everyone listening as always. And we will talk to you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Fit RX. I invite you to share this with friends and family. If you would like, you can check out our website at vibrantlifedc.com, or you can email me at drgreg@vibrantlifedc.com.